Tonight on The Local Live, we have highlights from the Memorial Day parades. Maura Carlin sits down with Holocaust survivor Claire Hyman. And on tonight's roundtable, the topic is anti-Semitism in Westchester. Good evening, it's Thursday, May 31st. I'm Alexandria Garcia and welcome to The Local Live. Last night, LMC TV celebrated its 28th annual award night. Here are the highlights.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to LMC TV's annual award night.
This award holds a special place in my heart as it was the first award that I won 7 years ago when I started volunteering here at LMC TV. It's fitting that I would be presenting this award on my last award night before leaving for college.
It's been a great experience, and I'm just very happy to keep growing with the team. So thank you.
I'm going to try everything I can to always stay here, and this is like my second family. Thank you so much.
I'm completely blown away by the work that's done by everyone in this organization. So I just want to take a moment and, if we can, collectively say thank you to everyone whose work is on the street today.
Did you hear the one about the rabbi and the minister who walked into a diner and the waiter said, "Is this a joke?" It was not a joke. Ours is a show based on a friendship and a shared sense of justice, morality and faith, and how to get that ketchup out of the bottle.
The gift of what we do is we eat together and share a friendship together. 'Cause tramps like us, baby, we were born to run. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
To watch the full award show, visit lmctv.org. Yesterday, the Village of Mamaroneck held its annual Memorial Day Parade. Mamaroneck's finest walked down the avenue in memory of those who'd paid the ultimate sacrifice serving their country. Revelers lined the street to wave at bands, elected officials, and even statues. Fire and police departments were out in full force, as were veterans. The parade ended at American Legion Post 90, where a wreath-laying ceremony took place to remember the fallen. Residents in the town of Mamaroneck and Larchmont are reminded that the use of gas-powered leaf blowers is banned from tomorrow, June 1st, through September 30th. Please inform your landscaper and lawn crew, as there are fines for any violation of the law. The law aims at reducing airborne particles that may particularly affect the young and the elderly. Leaf blowers also contribute to noise and air pollution. Please report any violation to your respective police department. And here is Maura Carlin, who will discuss anti-Semitism in Westchester in this week's roundtable.
Welcome to the Roundtable. I'm Maura Carlin, alongside Mike Witch. In case you missed it, May is Jewish Heritage and History Month in Westchester County, and also an appropriate and important opportunity to discuss anti-Semitism and what feels like to many an increase in incidents. You may recall, for example, that the 2017 gun show at the Westchester County Center included the display and sale of Nazi items. Swastikas, a symbol of Nazis, have also appeared in many locations in the county, including at schools. Our guests are the Reverend Doris K. Dalton, chair of the County Human Rights Commission, and Rabbi Adir Yolkut of Mamaroneck's Westchester Jewish Center. And this is a reminder that you can join our conversation. You can call, email, or go to Facebook Live with your comments and questions. So thank you for joining us.
Of course, thank you. Yes.
Reverend, I'm actually going to start with you. By my very unofficial count, I found about 18 incidents of anti-Semitism in Westchester County in 2017, just based on news accounts.
Right.
What are the actual numbers?
So currently, I have not been given actual numbers for 2017 by Westchester County Police.
maybe because they're still assessing their numbers, or maybe because they weren't keeping, I don't know. I do have numbers from 2010 to 2016, and so there's a difference too between hate crimes and hate crime incidents. So reported to the Westchester County Police between 2010 and 2017 are 8 hate crimes. Now, a hate crime is different from a hate crime incident. So a hate crime is a crime that's motivated by hate, right? Say somebody spray paints swastika on your temple, which did happen in 2017, right? But a hate crime incident is perhaps someone is, I don't know, assaulting you, you're in a bar fight or something, and somebody happens to yell a word like the N word or says something very derogatory towards you, and that would be incidental to the actual crime. So that would be a hate crime incident, which is different.
So the painting of swastikas on county trails, for example.
Right.
What would that have been?
That would have been, I think it would have been a hate crime, like in a public accommodation, right?
And what about the swastikas in a school? Because there were incidents of that as well.
Yeah, same. I believe so. It would be the same. Yeah.
So if there were 8 recorded for the 6 or 7 years, and
Yeah.
there were at least 17 or 18 in 2017,
Right.
Substantial increase in 2017. Rabbi, I want to get you in this conversation. Sure. How has that affected your congregation and the security measures that you have there, if any?
Yeah, it has definitely affected them very strongly. I came in August of 2016 from rabbinical school out in Los Angeles, and it was almost immediately a part of the conversation we were having, because there was an incident with a middle-aged man who was kind of driving a particular car in this area up in southern Connecticut, which had festooned across it kind of all sorts of derogatory, anti-Semitic, anti-people of color messages on it. And there were moments where he drove by and he was spotted outside the synagogue. So we're kind of always facing this tension, because nowadays in the religious sphere, you're wanting to be out there to let people know what you have to offer, wanting to market yourself and brand yourself. Yet there's this fear of, well, we don't want our sign to be too big. We want to be discreet about the ways we self-advertise, because we don't know who is watching us and who might be on the lookout for us putting ourselves out there.
Is this something happening nationally?
Yeah, I would say nationally these numbers continue to rise. New York happens to have had the most incidents this past year. It had 380 compared to California, which was the next closest on the list at 268.
Wow.
But if you look at every state for this past year, according to the Anti-Defamation League, had an anti-Semitic incident in it, which was the first time that had ever happened.
Okay. We actually, believe it or not, are going to already take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk Nazism and hate groups in the county. Stay with us. Okay, we're back, and we're talking Nazism and hate groups. And we were talking about the increase in incidents in the county and nationally. Why do you think this is happening now?
Okay.
I can't be the first person to have asked that question.
No, you're not. And it's a topic of great discussion, I think, in a lot of places that I've been as well, not just at the Human Rights Commission when we're at the board meetings, but also in a lot of other areas and places that I am and where I speak. I think the door has just been open wide and permission given for people to voice, I think, their worst fears and allowing it to come out unchecked.
Who opened that door?
Well, I'm so glad you asked.
I have an opinion. What's yours?
I think that the door was opened in reaction to previous administrations, presidential administrations, I mean, where there was certainly a tight lid on what people complain is political correctness. I don't think it's political correctness. I think it's about how we are for all the people, right? As the Constitution says, what does it mean that we are a place where all people are created, we're all equal and we're all treated with dignity and with respect? That the door is open for us to be able to say whatever it is we want to say.
Well, we have a question from a viewer. Is anti-Semitism greater or more common now, or does it just seem that way from social media, which is everywhere?
Yeah. It seems to be happening at a more rapid occurrence now than it ever has in history. This was the second highest total in 2017 since the numbers were starting to be recorded in 1979. And just to kind of piggyback on the question I would also add that the way in which social media and the internet proliferate these ideas and they normalize them, I mean, that's one of the clear and explicit attempts of those members of the alt-right movement and white nationalist movements, that they're trying to say these ideas which are normally radioactive before, we can perhaps make them more palatable.
So are we actually having a discussion as to whether Nazism is bad?
I've not heard the discussion in that way. I've heard discussions about white supremacy and white nationalism, but not necessarily Nazism.
They're not intertwined or synonymous to some extent?
You know, I'm not. Do you know more about that?
I think they're intertwined. I think, from what I understand, and I'm not an expert in this, the attempt by people who are in white nationalist groups are trying to basically say, what's wrong with each group of people just being with their own group and trying to advance their own agenda. But I think it's an easy answer for me that we're not having that conversation, because we can take a page out of Germany's book. It is illegal in Germany to use any language, to salute in any way that would bring back what Nazism was about. So there are red lines in society. And it's important to take a stand on that from our public officials, from our law enforcement, to say, this is not something we tolerate.
But when the president goes on television and says there are good people on both sides of an issue, what message does that deliver?
A deeply problematic one.
Yeah.
It's why, starting in the fall of 2016, the numbers already rose in that last quarter after the election. Not that the president or the presidency or the administration is the sole factor, but he holds quite a bit of power, and with that comes great responsibility at the words that you use.
Some of the incidents that happened in Westchester County that were reported were on college campuses of alt-right groups being there and recruiting, as well as swastikas and other incidents. What are these groups, and are people watching them? Is that what your commission is doing?
Our commission is preparing to do that. Our board is almost brand new. So there's 15 people on the board, and out of that 15, 13 are new for the very first time. We're placed there with the new administration, with the new county executive. So the board for the Human Rights Commission has a renewed commitment to address these very things. But we are basically, I've been telling people we're working on renovating the house, basically. We're working on an old foundation, we're building some new walls. We're almost there, yeah. But that is certainly something that I do want to work on. That is one of our goals, is to address, how do we in the county deal with these kinds of issues? How do we bring people together to have these conversations, especially in our schools, with our colleges, universities, community colleges, like that kind of stuff, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to address this to you.
Yes.
It seems as though, and correct me if I'm wrong, that whenever a single minority or group is targeted by hate, whether it be African Americans, LGBTQ, Muslim, Hispanic, the Jews are always tacked on to that. Is that your perception as well?
Tacked on in the sense that
being, we don't like them and the Jews, and we don't like them and the Jews. Is that just paranoia, or?
Yeah, I haven't seen it in that way, in the same regard. I mean, I think all minorities throughout time happen to have faced their form of discrimination. The Jewish people happen to have been around for a very long time. So if you trace us all the way back to kind of our origins, almost from the advent of Christianity, because of various misunderstandings, Jews already started to face it then. So it's not so much that I think we were kind of added on. We just happen to have existed perhaps across the spectrum of time as each other group has come in and faced their own discrimination as well.
Okay, we are going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about the future and what people can do and what we should all be doing. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Did you know that if you missed the last government meeting, you can watch it on our website? Just go to lmctv.org, click on videos, then click on municipal meetings, scroll down to find the meeting you want, or use the search function in the upper right corner and type in the name or date of the meeting. Then watch. You can see the full agenda and jump to a specific agenda item. It's all a click away at lmctv.org.
Welcome back. We're continuing our discussion about anti-Semitism, Nazism. What can or should we do, and who is we?
Yeah. I think see something, say something is still a very appropriate rule of thumb here. One of the things that I find difficult is that in the beginning of the segment, we talked about the numbers, right? And the numbers don't always match. And I think it's because where reporting is happening, also there's not consistent reporting that's occurring. So we need the reports to come in. And the database is being held, but it's not held well by the DA's office, the county DA's office, and also the different police departments. We actually need a consolidated database.
So who is responsible for that? Is it reported to police departments, or is it just somebody calls the newspaper, or somebody posts it on Facebook? How does one keep track of all of this?
So currently, I understand that the county DA does have a hate crimes database, and they're keeping track of that. But we do need to check and see how they're consolidating the information across all police departments in Westchester County, as well as with the county police, and make sure that that happens all at once, so we have better data.
There is a Facebook site that I think was started about a year ago called Not in Our Towns.
Yes.
And there's active posting on that. But is it the Human Rights Commission that is keeping tabs, and are they leading the educational effort?
That's exactly what we're due. The Human Rights Commission, we do lead the educational effort around discrimination, anti-discrimination, trying to foster more tolerance and eliminate prejudice in the county. That's our job.
So we actually have a viewer question. How can we teach our children to do better than the present generation?
I think the first step is to expose them to the history, and by that I mean the full messiness of history, not just kind of cherry picking the positives and the kind of shining moments, but really getting down and dirty and saying, this is where we screwed up. This is where we failed. This is where we failed to call out when kind of the moral outrage should have been bubbling up inside of us.
Well, give me an example of a time period that our children should be taught.
Well, I mean, I think clearly the obvious answer is to go back into the beginnings of the Second World War, which really needs to start at the First World War, and talk about the very slow ways, but insidious, that the kind of dialogue and the actions in the local communities began, and people kind of, laughed them off, or not laughed them off, but just said, it's not a big deal, it's just here. And then those things begin on this level, and then in their toxic way can really get amplified very quickly.
I mean, there were Jews at that time who said that it's not really a big deal, it's not really happening.
They couldn't believe it, yeah. But it's, I had a student last year who goes to a private school in this area, who found a swastika on the chalkboard. And he was freaked out. And this is a student who who knows history, but you don't believe it. And I think, we need to keep the dialogue up, right? Like the other week, Reverend Dalton came to speak at our synagogue, having just come from an iftar.
Yeah.
And that was
having come from a
iftar dinner breaks the Ramadan.
Right.
And I thought, how great is that? And how great would it be if Jews began to speak out when Muslims were discriminated against?
That's right.
And the African American community.
But didn't the head of the ADL, the Jewish Defense League, was it? No, the
ADL.
Anti-Defamation
That's
League
right, yeah.
said that if people came after Muslims, he would stand up and say he was a Muslim.
I remember that when they first came out with the kind of Muslim ban talk. That's right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is so important. I mean, I think that we can't only stand up when it is an issue or a topic that affects us directly. Yeah. We have to be able to stand up for each other at all times, anytime that there is an attack on our humanity. And that's what that's what neo-Nazism, white supremacy, white nationalism, that's what that is. It is an attack on our humanity and our ability to be better and solid communities.
Does the media play a role in this educational effort? I mean, they're reporting on incidents. Should they also be proactive and publishing articles about understanding and acceptance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
in its ideal sense, I think the media should be doing that. I think, sometimes, as is the case, you also have media that represents a kind of broad spectrum of interests. But the ones who kind of operate in that kind of center sphere and are not pandering to one particular side really need to do a good job of, I think, getting those voices out there or making known those incidents.
Can I piggyback on something that Adir said earlier, or Rabbi Adir said earlier? On top of also learning about history, I think it's also very important that we meet each other, that we have dialogue, that we introduce ourselves to other communities and other faith traditions that we don't yet know. I think having an ability to cross those lines, introduce our children to other traditions, that's what builds stronger communities and better relationships.
Do you think this comes down, it really is about religion?
No, I don't think it's about religion. Do you? I think it's about power. I think it's about fear. I think it's about fear of losing something that you thought you had. What do you think?
Yeah, religion feels like a shell kind of covering up the actual, like any problem you have with a person in life, if you dig a little bit, you realize the thing that's being presented is not actually the problem. And religion is just the name we attach to all these dynamics that are at play, as Reverend Dalton just alluded to.
I have one last question before we run out of time, is whether you are or whether we should be concerned about another Holocaust or another Hitler.
Yes. I think we should be concerned about another Holocaust, another Hitler. I don't think it will be targeted at Jews. My concern is for Muslims in the U.S. or for those who have undocumented status, those who are the most vulnerable right now in our nation. When I think about Holocaust in the U.S., that's what I think about. Now, worldwide, there are lots of pressure points worldwide.
And maybe that Holocaust can take other forms.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, there could be an extermination of a culture. The people may exist, but the culture may be denied.
Yes, that's right.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's very clear. I mean, all you need to do is look across the ocean. I mean, clearly here.
In France?
In France, in East Asia. I mean, there are massacres taking place all over. The rise of nationalism in Hungary with Viktor Orban, and that whole movement across the Eastern European bloc. It's very scary.
Yeah.
And yes, so it very quickly could happen again.
So I didn't mean to step on your question there, but among the actions that we can take is to talk to the people who are running for public office.
Definitely.
And ask specifically where they stand in regard to these issues.
Yeah.
And vote them in.
That's right. Voting is a great weapon to be utilized these days.
Maura, sorry.
That's okay. We're out of time, though. I want to thank you for joining us, Rabbi Adir, Reverend Doris. And later in the show, we're going to have part of my interview with a Holocaust survivor. The segment you'll see takes you up until the time that Claire Heyman was sent to the concentration camp at Auschwitz. And we encourage you to watch the entire interview, hear about Auschwitz and the Death March and her escape. And it will be available in its entirety on our website. So now stay tuned for more of The Local Live.
I'm a reporter, I'm a producer, I'm a writer.
I am a news anchor, I am a producer.
I am a news editor.
I am the technical director.
I am a reporter, I am an anchor.
I volunteer for The Local Live because I'm a proud resident of Larchmont and Mamaroneck, and I like to give back to the community.
I volunteer for The Local Live because I believe in bringing the news into your living room.
I volunteer for The Local Live because I believe in leadership, support, and success in a community.
I volunteer at The Local Live because it's a fun learning experience, and I know each week I come, I can learn something new.
I volunteer for The Local Live because I believe in community television.
As a spring intern at The Local Live, I learned new skills like video, editing, and production, and furthered my skills as a writer. The internship gave me confidence as I embarked on my journey through the world of journalism.
We are The Local Live.
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 Last week, Maura Carlin sat down with Claire Heyman, a Holocaust survivor. Here's a snippet of the interview, which you can watch in full by visiting lmctv.org.
A young teenager in a small town in Germany the night of Kristallnacht. What happened that night when they came to your house?
We were prepared that they would come to us. My mother and father said they're burning all the synagogues in a big city. So we prepared ourselves and we put the little children in a separate room so they shouldn't know anything. So in the meantime, 20 brown uniform as art trooper from the next town came and demolished our house. The kids, we went under the bed and we were hiding. So we had no beds to sleep. They demolished the house. They ripped the beds open with the feathers, so we had no room to sleep. So they put us one night in a prison next town, so we should have to sleep, a place where to sleep. They took my father away right away and put him in a big city, collected where all the men they collected, and sent them to Dachau. Dachau was a big concentration camp. In December, April, December, they collected all the Jews from surrounding town and districts, about 4 or 5 districts and the people from my town, and they collected them to send them away. That was in April 45. When we heard they collected all the Jews, that was a year before. So I worked in Frankfurt, and the Gestapo collected 120 girls.
And they took you to Berlin to work in a factory.
Yes, 16, from 16 till 24. Siemens needed some workers because everybody was in the war. So we worked for 2 years by Siemens.
Right, and there you had to wear
we had to wear yellow
star.
stars. We took the train to the factories with the yellow stars. That wasn't easy because there was already big anti-Semitism and they used to make bad remarks, but we had to go to work. So my parents were away in 42 and we happened to be by Siemens till 43. So in February 43 they collected us. They came and took us to Auschwitz.
Now, they took you in cattle cars. It was not luxury travel.
They took us to the train in cattle cars.
And we'll stop here for now, but you can watch the whole interview at lmctv.org.
This week in sports, the Rhinex softball team punched their ticket to the Section 1 finale with a resounding 7-1 victory over rival Valhalla. Senior Jessica Santoli helped the Panthers out from all the way out in center field in the LMC Varsity Sports Play of the Week.
He could, try to get him to chase one in the dirt if she so chose. Here's the pitch. And it's lined up right up the middle over second base. That'll score a run. Play at the plate, actually. Oh, and she's out at the plate. It won't score a run. And a great throw there.
Tremendous throw by Jessica Santoli to nail Ferrara at the plate. My goodness. And Yanuzzi at the end of the play with a tremendous tag, too, kind of blocking the plate, saying, go around me. Nah, I got you.
Is your teen interested in film? Then LMC TV's workshop is just for them. Teens write, act, direct, and edit their own films. It's a full filmmaking experience you won't get anywhere else. Our workshop has limited space, so sign your teen up today for a fun, enriching experience. LMC TV, where creativity and community come together.
Larchmont celebrated Memorial Day last week with a parade, and here are the best moments.
It was a special day on March 24th, as families, service members, and local officials gathered for the Larchmont Memorial Day Parade. Many people attended the parade to remember those who have died in active military service. LMC TV's Rebecca Bourbon was at the parade to speak with the community.
Tell us what the Memorial Day Parade means to you.
Well, this is like the first one that we do over the course of many this weekend, remembering all the veterans and all the people in uniform that have sacrificed for this country. Beautiful day up here. You can see all the kids, and it's great that they're involved in this. This is what we need for this country.
We're here with Mayor Lorraine Walsh, and what does the Memorial Day Parade mean to you?
Well, first of all, of course, it means honoring those who served to protect this country.
and it also means community coming together, and just a great feeling of village spirit, community spirit, and honoring those who serve.
It was a successful parade, as members of the community marched proudly as they honored and remembered those who have served their country. We spoke with Larchmont officials after the parade.
It was just a fabulous time, lots of hot dogs, lots of laughs, lots of friends, lots of kids having a good time, which I think is important to continue the tradition to the next generation. We're passing on a legacy, hopefully, that will stay intact for decades to come.
How was the parade today?
Wonderful. This is a slice of Americana. It's Larchmont Village at its best, and you can see how many people are out, young families, people who are new to the community, and some of them may have come up from the city, and this is why they came to Westchester, to be part of a community sense. It really makes you feel a wonderful hometown feeling. And also, I think it's important as you see these young men who are serving in the military now, that Larchmont shows respect to them as well. So it's a wonderful day. We had perfect weather this year.
With the Local Live, this is Hugo Sandoval.
On April 20th, LMC TV revealed a fundraising community mural. You can see we are about halfway there. Watch this to help us along the way.
LMC TV would like to thank local artist Jamie Lynn at Made, an art studio in Mamaroneck, for creating a beautiful community mural. Place your piece in this mural by contributing to LMC TV, the community connection that brings you local board meetings, varsity sports, and your local news. Please contribute to this community mural by going to our website and clicking on Donate. Each contributor will be listed next to the mural when it is complete. We value your appreciation of what we do. Become a single donor or as a group, go to lmctv.org. The only piece missing is you.
It's time for Pet of the Week, provided by Pet Rescue. Ellie's a new addition to Pet Rescue, so she's a little shy. She's looking for a loving family and a home where she can kick back and put up her paws. Would you help lure this timid kitten out of her shell? Gracie is not yet 1 year old and has a lot of energy and loves to go around. This pup is a big fan of people and other pets, so she would definitely like you. For more information on Ellie or Gracie, or if you want to view any of the other pups that have recently arrived, please visit ny-petrescue.org. We're always looking for new volunteers and interns to help produce the newscast, and we love hearing from our viewers. Email comments and inquiries to the Local Live at lmctv.org. Thank you for watching the Local Live. I'm Alexandria Garcia, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night.